Okay, we're coming back.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
There's so much going on in our own country right now that it is not surprising that what has been, that the battle for the eastern part of Ukraine has kind of moved into the background in some people's thinking. I obviously keep up on it every single day, and part of, obviously having our dear friend Philip over there during part of the time put a lot of attention on it as well. But right now, the counteroffensive from the Ukrainians began about a week ago, maybe 5 days, and it is moving extraordinarily fast. They are, Johnny, I don't know, did you watch any of the Tiafoe tennis that was going on the last couple days?
No, what's going on there?
This guy, Francis Tiafoe, his parents were from Sierra Leone. Mm-hmm. He grew up in Maryland. He was born there. He was born in Maryland to Sierra Leone immigrants. I think his parents were divorced or separated or something. Anyways, he lived with his dad when he like 5 days out of the week. And when he lived with his dad, they lived at a rec facility where they had a tennis court and all this stuff. And he basically, since the age of 4, he just started playing tennis, and he's great and he's terrific. And it was really a heartwarming story. He was ranked 22nd. He got all the way to the semifinals yesterday. He was up against the number 2 ranked guy and lost, but it was a long fought battle. Like, he brought it. Cool. It was great. And to come that far being ranked 22nd, it was just beautiful to watch. And one of the things that obviously at that level of tennis, like men's tennis, it's like there's a lot of surgery going on, but these guys hit so hard and so fast. Yeah. But one of the ways that they do it is that they set you up, they hit you one way, and then they direct it the other direction just as fast, and you just can't get to the other side of the court in time to hit.
Sure, yeah.
That's just how it works.
Yeah, the whole thing's a mind game.
Yeah.
And then try to predict other people's reactions.
Exactly. How many times is he going to hit it left before he hits it right, and can I be on the right foot when it happens, because I need every split second. And the other guy who, Alcaraz, who won last night, young guy, 19, just like a machine, just really great. But he's from Spain, terrific player. But both of them had a tremendous amount of heart. It was beautiful to watch. It was a great game, and we watched the whole thing because it just went on. It was like 3 hours and 54 minutes, or 4:15. I think it was 4 hours and 50 minutes they played all these matches. They had to do a full 5. But the point is that one of the reasons he won was because of his strategy of being able to set up to the left and go to the right, and then set up to the right and go to the left, and just, wear out his opponent, who was 24. The younger guy, the Spanish guy, was 20. He's 19. And, playing that many hours, that's how you're going to do it. Well, there's a little bit of that. You're waiting for me to get to this about Ukraine, but there's a little bit of that going on with the Ukrainian strategy right now. The Russians were under the illusion, and maybe because they made their attack plan when Trump was still president, and were counting on him being president when they used it, delayed it a little while because Biden had won, and figured, well, we haven't got time, we just got to do it, and did it a year later than they had planned. And that's how it is. I mean, you can listen to them talk about it on the Russian news services. The whole idea that Trump, like, if I was president, never would have happened. Baloney. Garbage. They were going to go in. That's what the delay of the javelins was for. He was helping them. They were going to go in January of 2021, right before his inauguration, because that would delay any turnaround, and it would keep the American system on its heels while he was being inaugurated, to slow down our support for them and allow them to take Kharkiv, or allow them to take Kiev. So that was the strategy. It failed miserably because Trump is a loser, and that's how it works. So, thank you, Carol. She's saying, I hate to tempt fate, but Hal Sparks' road kid is batting 1,000. I know. Oh, it makes me nervous. So, but you're right. I'm working on it. I've been working on it. So hopefully it by all means should. Now, the the Russians were under the impression, I think because they did make this plan when Trump was in office and were expecting America and NATO to be slow on the uptake against them, slow to support Ukraine. And that's not at all what happened. And so they spread themselves far too thin. They also expected that everybody already in the Donbass was on the team instead of just the Russians that they put there, that the Ukrainians that were in there would suddenly go along with it or go along with their silly referendums or any of that stuff and automatically support what was going on. So, I mean, they made a lot of mistakes. This last week, there was one of these generals sitting there talking to, just basically lying to Putin's face that they were doing better because it was on camera. And the interesting thing is, Putin knew he was lying, but the question is, did he make him lie because the cameras are rolling?
Right.
And he's mad because he got the real assessment before they started rolling, and then he got the fake one, and he's got to sit there for the fake one. That's more than likely what happened. So all along the border of the previously taken area and the area that had been seized in the initial attack in February, the Russians have been basically holding that line and shipping stuff in because they're, a couple hundred miles from their own border, so they could bring in supplies and just hold that line, and they could be relatively thin up against that line and keep the entire border. But that doesn't work anymore because the official count of dead soldiers for Russia, according to them, as of last week, is 51,000. That's more than 5 times what the U.S. lost in Iraq and Afghanistan in 20 years. And there are over 100,000 if you include injured to the point they cannot fight anymore. Amputees and people who with head injuries or people who are never going to fight again. Over 100,000. They invaded with a force of 170,000. That means they are down to 70,000 of their original fighting force, and they are bringing in Chechen and Wagner group fighting forces to try and patch the holes. These are mercenaries and religious fanatics that are, and there's literally been reports of fights between Wagner group mercenaries and Spetsnaz fighters inside the Donbass firing on each other.
What?
Yeah, over territorial disputes for limited resources, arms and food. Yes, so they are fighting over a limited amount of resources, making it through and getting to the area, and so they are killing each other over supplies. And these are not like, in the beginning when you're talking about like the Ghost of Kiev stories and other stuff. There's this idea that maybe the Ukrainians were memeing back against the Russians to try to demoralize them, and everybody uses internal propaganda in the war to kind of, like dropping leaflets and stuff, to like, if you surrender now and see mercy, if not, the giant bomb is coming, that kind of stuff. Everybody does that in war, so that's to be expected. This is well beyond that. This is all materially verified within Russia. They talk about it. They've had discussions openly on the radio and on television about.
I was about to ask, where's all this being revealed?
Julia Davis, who does the Russian media monitor stuff, has been covering, the Channel 1 and the Russian television shows, which basically they're Fox News, that started out talking about how great they were doing, and now every night they are just they're enraged. I don't know how else to put it at how bad it's going. All of it is like. That's why they've been threatening nuclear warfare and attack and stuff. Is because they think, they're aware. They now know they're getting close to the end of any kind of conventional warfare being a success. So, I mean, they were.
What's next? They just decimate the land.
Yeah, the idea is that they would irradiate the place so it's useless. The problem is they need it. The problem is if Russia needs to take Ukraine for resource reasons.
Right.
They need the oil and gas, they need the farmland, and they need the minerals that are in the ground. That's why they want to take it, because it's not covered in permafrost the rest of the year like Siberia is, where the rest of their stuff is. I'm dead serious. And so this was always theft. This was always murder everyone in the bank so there are no witnesses, blow up all the cameras, and take all the cash. That's what it was always about. And so even their threats of tactical nukes, they have to be taken with a grain of salt in terms of will they use it? The only place they would use it, if they got to that point, quite frankly, is in NATO territories as retaliation, like, hitting Poland or Latvia or Lithuania or Finland or something like that, or even Germany, which I don't see happening, because that's where somebody internally kills Putin before he could do that.
I have to confess right now that I have Finland Tourette's. That Monty Python song is screaming through my head.
Which song?
Finland, Finland, Finland.
I see. Well, they the whole thing about,
Somebody in the chat, make me feel better about that, please.
Well, I would like to say for the record that Finland and Sweden are joining NATO. The NATO expansion in those areas, and the fact that Finland shares a much bigger border with Russia than Ukraine does, and a much more strategically important one. I mean, I guess technically the Ukrainian one is closer to Moscow, but like St. Petersburg's port and all that stuff is very close. The idea that somehow this was about NATO expansion is just garbage. It always has been garbage, but it's really
What about the Nazis, man?
The Mearsheimer fanatics are losing their minds right now, because when we added 2 states to NATO, Russia didn't care, even though they border Russia. So if it was always about that, then it's always been a lie. It was always a resource theft. Well, they thought the bank's alarms and the guards were less armed and less effective than they were.
Uh-huh.
And they spread themselves too thin, and now the Ukrainians are punching through and at a lightning clip. And we'll take a break, but the Russians have even admitted to retreating out of a major city rather than get encircled. That's how deep into Russian territory the Ukrainians got in the last 72 hours. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Hey, it's my birthday month. Great month to become a Patreon supporter. You can do it annually. And so my birthday month is a great month. I'm just saying. That's not use the fart one.
Well, we're celebrating your birthday month.
That's not birthday month. You're owning. All right. You're owning my birthday. That's the owning. Huh? That's the pwn alarm. Okay, we'll be back. That's better. That's way better. Way better.
Attention, attention. Stop what you're doing. Because we're coming back to the Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide.
Oh my God!
They went a little crazy with it, and I appreciate it.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide.
That's the voice of our lovely Lady B.
Lady B!
Yeah. In this, this is from Bloomberg, but it's basically everywhere, like the story that's going on. Like, so the Russians have been they hold their cards close to their chest when it comes to failure. They're big fans of pretending everything's going swimmingly, even when it's terrible. This is from today, 9:03 a.m. Thousands of Russian troops retreated in the face of lightning Ukrainian offensive in the Kharkiv region that threatens to derail the Kremlin's bid to cement control of Ukraine's east. Yeah, you think? A local Moscow-backed official and pro-Russian military blogger said Saturday Kremlin forces had pulled out of Izium, a staging post for the campaign in the Donbass, to avoid being encircled. Russia's defense ministry confirmed the pullout from Izium and other areas, and other areas in a statement from Moscow describing the move as necessary to bolster forces in the eastern Donetsk region. Yeah, that's what they're doing. They're bolstering forces. And we're not retreating, we're charging in reverse. The news came hours after Ukrainian officials announced the seizure of Kupiansk, a logistical and transit hub for Russian troops fighting in the east, and the recapture of other occupied territory in the northern Kharkiv region earlier this week. Ukraine's defense ministry also tweeted a photo, it said, of the liberation of Balaklia in the southwest of Kupiansk, with troops shown raising a Ukrainian flag in the city center. I have to say, there's been a lot of like emotional moments watching what's going on in this stuff, and the liberation of Balaklia was one of them. There's an old lady greeting the Ukrainian soldiers who finally came in and drove the Russians out, asking them telling them they still got some pancakes. Would you like some? And them going, look, they might still keep shelling. Can you just get inside so that we can be safe so they don't see us? Yeah, thank you for the offer, but we don't have time for
pancakes.
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
lot.
yeah. But you got to eat them quick or they're a mess. I think Mitch Hedberg had the greatest. He answered the call on the question of pancakes. So the town of Balaklia in the Kharkiv region is liberated by Ukrainian troops. The commander of Ukrainian land forces, hero of Ukraine, Colonel General Oleksandr Syritsky, is leading the Ukrainian offensive in the sector. The Ukrainian flag has been raised in the town center. That's from their tweet. The advance comes after Kiev received increasing supplies of weapons from the U.S. and its allies over the past few months, including powerful HIMARS rocket launchers, giving Ukraine's backers confidence that it can push back against the Russian invasion, now in its 7th month. Daniil Bezanov, first deputy minister of information for the Moscow-backed Donetsk People's Republic in Donbass, said the Russian military had abandoned Izium and some other localities in Kharkiv. Of course, this is the result of high command mistakes, he said on his Telegram channel. Ouch. Oh, this is because of the Putin's buddies issues. Igor Girkin, of the Pickle King, obviously. A former Russian intelligence colonel and Pickle King, who became commander of the pro-pickle separatist forces in Donbass in 2014, year of the pickle, also confirmed the retreat from Izium. A hasty retreat will inevitably lead to heavy losses by the retreating troops in equipment and munitions, and most sensitive of all, in people, Girkin, King of Pickles, said in his Telegram post. Russian spring? No. A fantastic Ukrainian autumn, the beginning of the end of the Russian barbaric empire. This is one of the other tweets. The Russian Defense Ministry said on his Telegram channel that the decision had been taken to relocate forces from Balaklia and Izium to Donetsk over a 3-day period to achieve the stated goals of liberating Donbass by removing troops from more of Donbass. Russian military correspondents have voiced increasing concern about the reverses, with Ukrainian forces advancing dozens of kilometers into Russian-controlled territory in Kharkiv over the past several days. The situation of the Russian armed forces in the battles near Kharkiv is the hardest. Yevgeny Pickle Johnson said, a war correspondent for the state Russian TV channel VGTRK, said on his Telegram channel on Saturday. VG is, of course, the Russian Facebook. So that's their live streaming thing. And he's also got a Telegram channel because that's where the QAnon people all went. Reinforcements coming. The arrival of reinforcements slowed down but didn't stop the Ukrainian counteroffensive, he said, after pulling back following a failed bid to capture Ukrainian capital of Kiev. Kremlin forces since April switched their attention to Donbass, an area they had always been trying to take. But despite overrunning Luhansk, Russia has struggled to advance further west. And since the end of August, Ukraine started a new push to dislodge Moscow's forces from both the southern Kherson region and Kharkiv in the north, targeting Russian logistics capability and forcing resources to be divided. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said on Thursday that Kiev's troops had captured about 1,000 square kilometers in Kharkiv. That's enormous. The Institute for the Study of War, a U.S.-based think tank, now estimates the area about 2,500 square kilometers. In Moscow, there was no outward sign of Kremlin concern about the sudden battlefield setbacks. Putin continued with his planned public schedule, presiding over the opening of a new Ferris wheel and a martial arts gym in Moscow. Everything fine. Yes, Tumble City is open for business. State television showed brief videos of what it said were reinforcements headed for the Kharkiv region. By the way, the reinforcements video that they showed, several people have pointed out that they've geolocated some of that footage, and it was from earlier this year.
Huh.
Same people driving on the same roads from earlier this year. Now, the push will be for Kherson and then Crimea. The next big thing that will happen probably in the next, what the Ukrainians need to do, and what they're more than likely pushing to do, is reclaim Crimea right before winter. So that if the Russians want to take it back or want to attempt to take it back, they have to do it during winter. And that makes it difficult. So that's why the strike, which will take a couple of months, is happening right now. The Russians, unfortunately, tried an inversion of this, which is right after winter ends or right at the tipping point of winter, right before the ground starts getting slushy. We'll do our attack, and then we'll lock in, and then the ground will get slushy, and the Ukrainians will have a hard time pushing towards us because we'll own this land. They failed, though, because they underestimated Ukrainian resolve and support from the West, and just the fact that the Ukrainians have been planning for this for years, and knowing that it would come eventually, because the Russian administration cannot be trusted in any way. It's a kleptocratic group of lunatics who steal from their own people all the time. We now know, apparently, one of these Russian oligarchs who's a billionaire got rich selling the bolts in their tanks to overseas suppliers because the stuff is falling apart. This guy, there's somebody in the Russian military who got rich selling every fifth bolt in every piece of gear. That's the only answer for why stuff broke down as bad as it did, other than just ego, and them believing that it would all work out. Beyond that, the only excuse is, that, and obviously the good gear, they've been making money selling military gear to other countries. A lot of those countries, by the way, are rethinking those sales and are now doing tests on the military gear that they bought from Russia because they don't trust them anymore to work, and are looking for other suppliers. What's their only follow-up? Either Middle Eastern countries or China, both of which are equally crap. So, again, this is a turning point in the history of the world in terms of Russia trying to export war to the rest of the world for a long time, and the return on investment being very low. We got to take a break. We've got say again, Johnny.
So we got news.
Oh, yes. Lieutenant General Andrei Sichinov has been captured by Ukraine. Michael in our chat mentioned that. Yeah, he was captured in the newly captured territories. He was they lose a general, they lose the entire area. He was the only general in that area pushing all the troops. They have no NCO class. It's just a general and a bunch of troops. And those guys, as soon as they got him, everybody scattered. We'll be back.
You're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I've had people walk out of me before, but not when I was being so charming.
Video streaming at halsparks.com.
I don't care for you or for the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Puss-faced little pimpstick.
True progressive talk.
Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
Welcome back. Sorry, I had subs only chat. Yeah, there you go. That was checked for some reason. It is unchecked now. So just followers who are in there can join us. That was not intentional. So thanks for sticking around, and feel free to blaze away with bits and stuff and things and whatever. Okay, so Axios
Going on now.
and Reuters are, sorry, I just got totally distracted. Ukraine is reporting that Ukrainian forces have reached a key city in breakthrough against Russia. This is, by the way, let me see if I can bring it up so people can look at this one as well. This is related to what we were just talking about, but they go further. And Ukrainian troops have reached a major railway city in northeastern part of the country, potentially cutting off the supply for Russian forces, according to Reuters. Why it matters. Ukraine may have taken thousands of square miles of territory. That's the 2,500 miles that we were just talking about, 2,500 kilometers, cutting off supply for Russian forces. And let's see, which might have been the fastest breakthrough in months. Ukraine recently gained ground in the railway city of Kupiansk, where all the rail lines link together and connect Russia to eastern Ukraine. This may have trapped thousands of Russian troops since Ukraine's advance penetrated all the way to Moscow's main logistics route. Police were Police were seen walking through towns where Russian ammunition boxes were found abandoned, signaling that Russian troops may have left the area in a hurry. Ukraine's military reportedly closed in on Izium 2. They've since taken it, so that's that they're a little behind on that one, which is controlled by which is considered a Russian stronghold city. The New York Times reports what they're saying. Russian forces were likely taken by surprise. The sector was only lightly held, and Ukrainian units have captured or surrounded several towns, the British military said, according to NPR. Let's see what we're watching. Ukraine's military has not announced that they have entered Kupiansk. But they basically captured it. They're waiting until it's too late, essentially. CIA chief says that Russia will pay a heavy price for the war in Ukraine. That's newer reporting in this. The story of the breakthrough here. Russian grip on northwest Ukraine collapses. After Kiev severs supply line. This is something that the HIMARS, I mean, this is 100% the value of the HIMARS in this particular situation. It also has a lot to do with the value of the UAVs supplied by Turkey and by the United States and by the UK. The other major factor that cannot be overestimated is the absolute failure of Russian leadership and the ego and absurdity of the attack in the first place. Now, this will go down in history as as a Waterloo moment, as a Germans attacking Russia in winter story. This is one of the biggest strategic blunders in the world, and a lot of it will hinge historically on the fact that Vladimir Putin trusted Trump to prep the ground for him. He trusted Trump to make it so that this attack would work. The slowing of, the perfect phone call that would slow the receipt of javelins and other munitions. Hopefully, in the case of, Russia, I suppose, was counting on them going past the budgetary line, so they'd have to go up for a vote again, and then possibly Ron Johnson or Rand Paul would vote to hold back those funds.
Yeah.
Right? To limit them even further so that the attack could start in the same weather window in January of 21. Instead, that failed. They had to wait till January of 22. That's all. It's the only difference. But the idea that they would that it would work, even then, is suspect. But they were counting on that Trump would win or seize power or topple the place or, wreck the government on January 6th. And therefore, if they attacked around then, it would work. And then Biden got inaugurated and everything started moving ahead. And they're like, well, we can't wait. We can't go in on February 4th of this year. We're going to have to wait till the weather happens, goes our way again. Right before the thaw, right before things get slushy, we'll hold this ground when the ground is hard, and then we'll sit here when it turns to mud. And then we'll just bomb the hell out of cities and people until everybody leaves. And that is obviously the plan. It's what they attempted, but they were short of all the material needs, that they would, the material support on their own end. That's the ego part. And then the fact that NATO realigned, that the United States and NATO together lived up to the task. It must have come as a complete shock to them post-Trump. And the fact that even Germany had to come along, and the United States managed with Qatar and our own industries to start supplying European countries who rely very heavily on Russian gas to start being able to get liquid natural gas. So this is Moscow abandoned its main bastion in northeastern Ukraine on Saturday in a sudden collapse on one of the war's principal front lines after surging Ukraine forces threatened to encircle the area in a shock advance. The swift fall of Izium in Kharkiv province was Moscow's worst defeat since its troops were forced back from the capital, Kiev, in March, and could prove a decisive turning point in the 6-month war, with thousands of Russian soldiers abandoning ammunition stockpiles and equipment as they flee. By the way, allegedly thousands, I would like to say. I'm going to go with hundreds, because the idea that the mythology that there are a lot more troops there is part of Russia's strategy. The state-run TASS news agency quoted Russia's defense ministry as saying it had ordered troops to leave the vicinity to reinforce operations elsewhere, as we saw that before. The head of Russia's administration in areas in Kharkiv it controls told all residents to evacuate the province and flee to Russia to save lives, TASS reported. Witnesses described traffic jams of cars with people fleeing Russian-held territory. Same thing that happened in Crimea as well. This is all happening right now, today. The Russians' withdrawal announcement came hours after Ukrainian troops captured the city of Kupiansk in further north, the sole railway hub supplying Russia's entire front line across northeastern Ukraine. That left thousands of Russian troops abruptly cut off from supplies across a stretch of the front that has seen some of the most intense battles of the war. When you talk about World War II level turning points, this is one of those things. The capture of this railway hub and this cutoff of Russian supplies is an enormous turning point. It's incredible. And I'm just going to take a moment to throw a good old Slava Ukraine up in there, and also to let's just take a deep breath.
Okay.
And just enjoy the anger of the doubters. All the people who have been oddly, supposedly, certainly the Ron Johnsons and the Rand Pauls of the world, but the Jimmy Dores and others, the gray zone crowd, and the Aaron Mates of the world, the alleged lefties that have been rooting against Ukraine this entire time and saying that everything that Russia is doing to the people of Ukraine is somehow justified because of NATO expansion or the security of Russia, when no one was interested in attacking Russia at all. And apparently, if Finland joins NATO, who cares? Because Finland doesn't have resources that Ukrainian wants, or has too strong a military for them to take, more likely. But I'm just going to enjoy those folks and the week that they're having. Yes, lefties are saying that, Stardow. Hyper lefties, Jimmy Dore, alleged lefties. Again, I question their real value system. Because I think if you're a true progressive, you want actual progress. You're not all or nothing progressives are not progressives.
I saw somebody call themselves a progressive libertarian, and I thought, boy, how do you sleep?
Right. Libertarianism isn't even a functional governing philosophy. That's like saying you're a progressive vegetarian. I don't know how they relate, but knock yourself out. Maybe.
By the way, Jordan Mills sent a super chat that said St. Petersburg Duma asked to charge Putin with high treason.
Whoa. The St. Petersburg Duma, their individual Duma? Holy smokes. I'm going to guess the answer from the main Duma in Moscow will be no. And I wish health and a swift escape to anybody in the St. Petersburg Duma as of now. Here we go. There were signs of trouble for Russia elsewhere along its remaining positions at the front in the east, with pro-Russian officials acknowledging difficulties at other locations, and Ukrainians hinting at more advances to come. Days ago, and we gotta make sure, we got to take a break in a second. Days ago, Kiev's forces burst through the front line and have since recaptured dozens of towns and villages in a swift, mechanized assault, surging forward dozens of kilometers a day. Early on Saturday, Ukrainian officials posted photos of their troops raising the country's blue and yellow flag in a city hall in Kupiansk, dealing a blow that appeared to prove decisive for Russian garrisons supplied by the city's railways. To achieve the stated goals of the special military operation for the liberation of Donbass, it was decided to regroup the Russian troops located in the districts of Balalikia and Izium for the purpose of increasing efforts in the Donetsk direction. The Donetsk is behind them. That's like saying, why don't you just say the China direction at a certain point? Like, running is, at a certain point, running is running. Russian forces had already abandoned Balalikia days ago, but they were still bombing it. In Kharkiv, one of the dozens of villages captured in the Ukrainian advance, Reuters, because there were reporters riding along with this lightning advance, saw burned out vehicles bearing the Z symbol of Russia's invasion. Boxes still full of ammunition were scattered with strewn rubbish in positions the Russians had abandoned in evident haste. "Hello, everyone. We are from Russia," was spray painted on a wall. The 3 bodies lay in white body bags in a yard.
Oh, shit.
The regional chief of police, Vladimir Timoshenko, said Ukrainian police had moved in the previous day and had checked the identities of local residents who had lived under Russian occupation since the invasion's second day. The first function is to provide help that they need. The next job is to document the crimes committed by Russian invaders on the territories which they temporarily occupied. Russia is retreating. We got to take a break. That's a perfect note.
Oh.
There are more stories coming back, but this is a lightning assault happening right now. I would not doubt that Crimea is taken in the next couple weeks. This is enormous, and it's a great thing to see. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. So, anyways, welcome back to the show, everybody. Right now, there's a big ceremony. What are they doing? This was earlier today, where Prince Charles, who became King Charles III, and his Queen's consort Camilla, which is going to be really hard to say 3 times fast, are now the official monarch of Great Britain, of England. And the wigs and the hats and the scepters and the ruffles and it's all coming out, and the pomp, the circumstance, mostly pomp. But as an American, I can't stand monarchies, but England, you do you, boo. Go for it. Until you're ready to get rid of it entirely, go all in.
Yeah.
It's just I don't want you until you find something that will replace it evenly, because obviously we filled the gap for some people with people like Trump or the Kardashians. Like, there's still monarchists in and among us, and they need somebody to guide them. And we filled that gap with Trump and the Kardashians. I don't think it's healthy. So obviously, if the English, need that, then by all means, keep some sensible people doing it. Otherwise, it's all R. Kelly's as far as the eye can see, and Jim Jones's, right? So, it is stunning what is going on right now, and of course, the Twitter is all aflutter with what's going on. In let's see, I gotta shift this so everybody can see this guy right here. Put it over here. Yeah, let me see if I can bring this up. Yeah, there you go. This is from John Spencer. Just in case you're still not informed, Ukraine has launched the greatest counteroffensive since World War II. Ukraine has regained, liberated over 1,000 kilometers of land and cities. Ukraine is winning. Ukraine is defeating Russia, once thought to be the second most powerful military in the world. I would argue. Wow. I would argue that I always referred to it as the number 2 military in the world for good reason. In the same way that I regard the Chinese economy as the number 2 economy in the world. Not the second best, just the number 2.
Number 2, like what I do when I run away?
Yes, during the breaks.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that. Because that's materially real, not just a silly, childish insult, which of course it is. But in terms of the Chinese economy, for example, when you have an economy that big, but it is spread over that many people, it is not equally as large. If you look at economies, per capita, how do the people benefit in a country? The United States is obviously at the top, but the next countries in line are, largely Northern European or what have you. They're the places where the standard of living is ginormous, where the population is fairly small, where the resources of the country is spread fairly evenly over the people, Norway and, Greenland and Denmark and places like that. Those are actually, I believe, the second, third, fourth, fifth economies of the world, because if the economy is there to serve the health and welfare of the people and to create business opportunities for the citizenry, for that to be the economy of the country, not just an economy of trade worldwide, then China, just like Russia, is far down the list on that because of how, because the way China eliminated poverty, of course, is they decided that if you make $400 a year, you're in poverty. If you make $401 a year, you are no longer in poverty. That's how they decided it. It was a stroke of a pen, and suddenly they lifted hundreds of millions of people out of poverty because they had nine more yuan than necessary to be completely impoverished. It's absurd.
Congrats, you're not poor anymore.
Yeah, it's just goofy. So, here's Bill Crystal saying, not to count chickens nor jinx things, but Ukraine winning and Trump Republicans losing would make 2022 a very good year. I agree.
Bill Crystal.
There's a woman in Ukraine. There's footage of a woman, an elderly woman, freezes when she sees a soldier by her house, and she thinks he's from the Russian army. And then she said, the Ukrainian soldier says, "It's our guys coming," and she gives him a long hug. They have been held for 6 months. This is not, by the way, the area that was supposedly under Russian control since 2014. This is area they seized since. And these people have been living in fear of death and reprisal, and were about to be forced into fake referendums.
Thank you for the super chat, Melissa Mormon.
And yes, thank you, Melissa Mormon. So Michael McFaul, who used to be the Russian ambassador, he says, for months I've attended elite discussions where worries about softening support for Ukraine are expressed because of Putin's threats to cut off energy. Maybe we elites are underestimating how pissed off people can get when they're being blackmailed. Encouraging numbers out of Germany. Boris Ruch says, we should expect lots of turbulence across Europe over the next months, given Mr. Putin's weaponizing of energy. But right now, according to a new poll, a full 70% people in Germany are in favor of supporting Ukraine despite high energy prices. That's the shifting thought that Russia thought they could manipulate the populace by driving prices up. They're doing the exact same thing over here.
Wait. What is Joe Walsh saying?
This is not
when
that.
When did he change?
When did Joe Walsh turn into basically he
Biden backing Democrat?
Yeah, well, he's more like a Biden back a functioning democracy backing former Republican. It hasn't been said in a while, but President Biden has done a masterful job unifying the world against Putin and helping out put Ukraine in a position to actually win this war. Thank you, POTUS, says Joe Walsh. Yeah. There are a lot of those folks. Right. There are people raising the flag of Ukraine. There's like all these videos of hugs. Now, here's the interesting thing before we come up to our next break, and I promise not to, go to a place where I can't hear the coming back from Chicago. So Volodymyr Solovyov, the guy who hosts the Russian television show in the Beatles jackets all the time. You know that guy?
I'm seeing him right now. Is he like a Fox News guy?
Yeah, he's their Tucker Carlson. He's their Sean Hannity. He hosts this main roundtable. And if you have seen threats of nuclear annihilation, clips of that being said, it's happened on his show largely. Yeah, and this is primetime Russian state television. This is beyond Fox News. This is somewhere between Fox News and North Korean television, right? They're in the middle, because the difference between this and the North Koreans is the North Koreans will say it because they have to. These guys say it because they want to. Right? There's an element of just a gun off camera pointed at the North Korean TV commentator's head essentially all the time. So
the caption that actually sounds familiar, where the Republicans want Biden to be absolutely incompetent or ruining the country.
That's right. Same talking points. Yeah. Yes, the Solovyov is known for having the similar kind of talking points that the Republicans have about Joe Biden, which is he's a doddering old fool and a criminal mastermind. They want his story is they are beating Ukraine like a rented mule, and they sunk their own ship. The Moskva sunk on its own. It was an accident. It wasn't Ukraine doing
for revenge against Ukraine.
But we want revenge against them for sinking our ship. It's just as silly. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Don't forget, go to our YouTube channel at infotainmentwars.com and give us a like. Subscribe even. Help us reach that 40,000 number. We're getting there. We're getting there, Johnny. We're so close. We're only a couple hundred away. Only a couple hundred. We'll be back.
Wow.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I gotta say, the no more money for Ukraine. We need to spend that money here. Bot farms are ferociously screaming all over Twitter today because the Ukrainians are engaged in a lightning advance right now while we are live on the air. This is ongoing. They have reclaimed. Oh, look at this.
Thank you, Brian Meyer.
2 hours ago, the center of Moscow, the city center, has been closed off. They have, for some reason, this is Martin Kelly saying, near the Kremlin, all autocracies are stable until the moment they start crumbling. A growing perception in Russia that Putin has failed in Ukraine is a potential trigger for instability, but who knows? Change happens unpredictably, appears inevitable only in hindsight. But the center of Moscow is currently closed to through traffic. They have surrounded it with barriers in the city itself. An hour ago, Ukrainian defenders have liberated Belorika in Kherson Oblast. This is, I have to say, this is huge what is occurring right now while we're on the air. This is literally during the time we have been on the air, cities are being liberated.
Crazy.
And then there's footage of smoke coming from somewhere, and it says, during the, quote, regrouping away from the armed forces of Ukraine, the aircraft of the invaders made a, quote, negative takeoff.
Oh, my. That doesn't look good at all.
Yeah, one of the Russian planes taking troops out of the area crashed. And again, a lot of these soldiers, honest to God, the Wagner mercenaries, if you want to understand how I feel about those folks, go read up on what the Wagner group did in Cameroon in Africa, what they did to pregnant women. They're a horrible group of human beings, period, on a scale that most people can't even fathom.
On that note, happy birthday from Sandy Francow.
Well, thanks.
Speaking of
nice
hormones
timing.
being on a scale you can't even imagine, happy birthday to House Sparks.
Ouch.
Oh,
But these, and I have no doubt that there's Wagner Group guys in that plane that just went down. There are also, I have no doubt, Chechen fighters who are equally as brutal on the battlefield, though they are, allegedly fighting for Russia so that Russia leaves Chechnya alone. So there's this mixed loyalty thing that they have to go through. But there's also a lot of conscripts and people being sucked up into this by the Russians and forced to fight. And, imagine doing this for months, fighting, gain all this ground for, killing people you might be related to, killing your wife or your girlfriend or your best friend's mother-in-law, just to be driven back in a hurry. And then as you're getting out, your own pilot crashes your plane, if it wasn't shot out of the sky.
right.
That in and of itself is just, I don't know. It's striking. The whole thing is, let's see, 25th, Idlib, the SSA, let's see. There's video of people retreating. I don't know where that's from, so I'm going to take that with a grain of salt. We'll vet that later. But they are encountering
Liberating towns faster than I can learn how to pronounce them. That's a pretty good tweet.
Yeah. There's a couple of guys that I watch online who do this kind of stuff, and they've been adjusting the border of what's Russian controlled, what's Ukrainian controlled for a while. And this one guy on Speak the Truth, one of the most adorable things about it is him just butchering these towns' names as they happen.
In good faith.
And there's the Sandy France one. Thank you so much. And Brian, thank you so much for bringing up Trader Tucker.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about this is how quickly and how powerfully it is turning, and what it will result in. I'm showing a map online right now.
Twitter is right now. Wow.
Yeah. This is supposedly where they're moving troops around, and the guy's saying things are moving so fast in eastern Ukraine. This is the latest map of the date map, the most up-to-date map I can find, and no doubt it will be out of date in hours.
Unreal.
Yeah. This is amid reports the Russian front has collapsed near Kharkiv. Vladimir Putin complained that the only reason he is losing the war in Ukraine is that the FBI recently seized stuff he needed. I'm not going to go into detail, but there were things I needed, very important things that the FBI has confiscated. This is a joke. It has to be. The Russian president said, if I had those things right now, I wouldn't be able to get my ass kicked all over Kharkiv. That's funny. That was funny. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. Yeah, no doubt.
It is so... It's amazing that you can do a Trump impression just by repeating ridiculous phrases. You don't have to use his voice. You just have to repeat the same inane phrases.
That's absolutely right. Yeah. And I will say that one of the things that you get to see is the pets, the salvaged pets, dogs, cats, them finding them. There's going to have to be some big foster movement out of there. We have too many cats already, but we'll take a dog.
Yeah, I think that there are entire organizations working on rescuing those pets that were left behind.
Yeah. Overall, and by the way, everybody is they're memeing the heck out of Putin right now with all the Hitler screaming at from the bunker, the movie The Bunker, where he's just
where he's just having a temper tantrum.
Yeah, his hands shaking because he's jacked up on Pervitin, and he pulls his glasses off and he's sweating and screaming at the sky. It's that's from the New Yorker.
Really funny takes that with just with alternate captions.
Right. Yeah, the Russian. They're also showing footage of not just armaments and tanks and other stuff and artillery shells and bullets and that kind of stuff, but body armor and helmets left behind so they could run faster. That's how fast this is happening right now. That you want to run as fast and as light as you possibly can. This is here's Financial Times. Lightning Ukraine offense pushes Russia back 70 kilometers in a week. It's even further than that.
That's a lot.
The Economist is reporting the Ukrainian army is piercing Russian lines near Kharkiv right now. 800 square kilometers liberated in the last 5 days. Here's that. I'm on the live stream right now. I am showing a time lapse of the map changing over the last 5 days. It's insane, pushing all the way back to the Dnipro, to the river. Once you get to the river, then you set up a little behind it and you start using the HIMARS and other stuff to fire over the Dnipro. Then you start rebuilding your bridges. Then you cross the Dnipro. That's going to be the next phase of this. But if they just get to the Dnipro, start hitting the areas and take Crimea before winter hits, that'll be enough. Some of the people in the chat can see this now. That's not even complete. That's the last 5 days. In the last 24 hours, they've taken hundreds of miles more territory. And it's ongoing as we speak. People are putting Happy Independence Day up on the Ukrainian thing. This is what the week looks like. Yeah, and there are people watching. Holy smokes. So this is what my last week looks like. I see somebody took this like meme of a football game winning, and then they put the time lapse up there as far as control contested. Yeah, that is an enormous amount of territory taken in 5 days. And what it shows is that the Russians were never prepared to hold this land.
What country is? We weren't prepared to hold anything that we occupied when we went into Afghanistan and did all that craziness.
Well, the difference is our intention was never to actually hold it. And Trump wanted to stay in, with the military base forever. Yeah. But ours was like, we wanted, we were under this impression that we could set up a rudimentary, democratic system.
Right, keep them to govern.
And then eventually, they would work it out for themselves. And it might take some guidance, it might take some security, but we would help them do it. And it worked for a while. Women were going to school, for example. That was the impact. All the education that happened during that time for women in Afghanistan, that's the result of the Americans and the Brits and the Australians trying to set up a democratic-leaning government that would allow some level of personal freedoms in the country. Once we left, it goes away. It's as stark as you can make it. When the Russians came in, when they attacked Afghanistan back in the day, they did no such thing. They never had any intention. The Russians, when they invaded Afghanistan, destroyed 50% of all the cities and villages. Just leveled them. Just destroyed them for the sake of leveling them. That was the intent in Ukraine as well. Take the good ones, bomb the ones you don't need. It's empty territory anyways. Turn it back into farmland or factories or mine the ground underneath it. Think of it as explosive mining. That's what that's what they were doing to Ukraine during this time.
Also, this Ferris wheel we've got pulled up here.
That's the Ferris wheel that Putin did the ribbon cutting on this morning before he went to a martial arts school. No doubt Steven Seagal was there. Teaching classes, cooking classes, but teaching classes this morning. How to make really thick, stick to your ribs pasta. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. This almost qualifies as a happy ending. I try not to be schadenfreude about this, but this is the fact that we are on the air as this is occurring.
That's not really schadenfreude, though.
Nope. Is enormous. We'll be back. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
I am happy, you are happy. Let us be happy together, whether the weather is cloudy or sunny. I will always be your funny honey bunny. I am lucky, you are lucky. Let us get lucky together, whether the weather is cloudy or breezy. I'll be there to say, hey, come on, let's take it easy. Cause isn't it nice to have the friends that you do? And isn't it nice that the sky is so blue? And isn't it nice to say I love you, chugga chugga choo choo, woo woo. I am smiling, you are smiling. Let us smile together, whether the weather is cloudy or stormy. I will still be there in the morning. I'll be right by your side in the morning. I'll make you breakfast in the morning. I hope that you like cereal.
Yay!
Hey.
You know what? We'll just, in my attempt to not make this, a dungable, let's just say that watching the new king be coronated or whatever the process is, while a new female prime minister takes over in the UK, for whatever it's worth, is a lovely balancing act to see in government, and that there was no. They didn't have a bunch of red hats bum rush Buckingham Palace. Like, that's a good sign.
Not yet. The night's
not
still
yet.
young.
Right. Yes. The just a bunch of like guys dressed like they're in the roadshow for Braveheart show up on the hill.
Sure.
Cold.
I was imagining like a bunch of
Cold.
Buckingham Palace people with like the big tall hats.
Big tall hats. Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's just a Monty Python attack. And I will say that watching the videos of like the old ladies, being liberated, and people holding up the Ukrainian flag as troops and other people drive through the area that the Russians took from Ukraine for the last 6 months. Is
video.
Yeah,
Rough.
It's just beautiful to see. Like there's an old woman, there's a couple of women in the house, and they're all crying because they feel safe again.
There.
A lot of grandmas, a lot of babushkas in there, and it's incredibly moving. And I will say that the moving map of the last 5 days in Ukraine is extraordinary, and points to the fact that it matters who you elect. It matters who runs the government in our country as well. And the fact is, none of this is possible without Joe Biden as president, because there is no way that that Putin wouldn't have done this if Trump had gotten another term, and there is no way that Trump would have unified NATO to protect Ukraine, even if he was forced to by Congress in a timely enough fashion to actually save the place. And again, that was the plan. I'm telling you, anybody who says that it wouldn't have happened under Trump's watch is full of beans. It's nonsense.
No, this is why they wanted Trump in there. They did it in spite of him not being in charge anymore.
That's right. And they had to, because they don't really have they're on a timetable based on finances and demographics.
Thank you, Lolo Lee, 1970, for the cup of coffee. You just got a cup of coffee, Hal.
Oh, that's lovely. Yes, I thank you for it, because I have not consumed it yet. I've been sipping. Everybody thinks I'm all caffeinated up in the mornings or whatever, and I barely ever get through my coffee.
That's not how you really need to dig into that thing.
I know. It's just that I get past the ice, and then I can't, and then I end up drinking it all like in one fell swoop. It's just wrong. But anyways,
yeah,
so
it's the right temperature. Ugh.
To the people of Ukraine, and the people who've been worried about the people of Ukraine, and to our dear friend Philip Ittner, who was our lifeline to information from there during this period of time. Much love to you guys, and take this as a heartwarming moment. War is horrifying. It has the devastating impact on people's lives are felt for decades afterward, but there are moments within it of heroics and challenge where people meet the villain that they are faced with. And in this particular case, it is pretty darn stark. Putin is as villainous as anyone can be. I mean, this is, since Hitler invaded Poland, this is one of the most egregious attacks in Europe that has occurred. This is Boko Haram level garbage from Vladimir Putin. It is the slaughter of innocents strictly for ego, territory, and resources.
Yep.
And it is unforgivable. And Biden deserves a tremendous amount of credit for making sure that they have what they need, that it's done in a way that it doesn't trigger other things. This whole process where they were like, we'll give you the HIMARS, but we're not going to give you weapons that can reach into Russia. We're not going to give you that, the length of them so that you can't fire into there until, once you get closer, we can't help it because you're taking back territory that's yours. But we don't want you to start firing over the territory into Russia with our weapons and triggering a broader war. And so they took those steps. Ukraine agreed to it. And then as they started showing themselves to be completely trustworthy in the application of the HIMARS, we gave them longer range stuff, and it is leading to this. And it will lead to we're going to see Crimea taken back in the next couple weeks. This is incredible.
That's amazing.
And it is 100% because we have people who actually give a crap in office in this country.
Yep.
So if Rovember isn't going to convince you, if getting lead pipes out of the American drinking water system isn't going to convince you, if fixing roads and bridges finally isn't going to convince you, if getting out of Afghanistan isn't going to convince you, then you're a dyed-in-the-wool maggot, and you have a lot of explaining to do to your fellow Americans.
Yeah.
Because all of these are. This is why. Why should I be inspired to vote in the midterms? This is why. This is why. The fact that schools and small municipalities, the fact that Jackson, Mississippi was in a situation where its water could get as bad as it is all this time, and the funds that are going to fix it are going to come because of the Biden administration, even in a state that voted against him. That's inspiring.
That's the whole thing.
That's why. I vote for people who want to help everybody, even if those people act like they don't want to be helped until it's too late.
Yeah.
Couldn't be prouder to be a Democrat right now. Couldn't be prouder to be a Biden voter. It's just great stuff that we're seeing. And by the way, I will admit to enjoying the Dark Brandon memes because of who it triggers and who it upsets. And I think it was brilliant of him to actually do his speech in front of the red background just to print some Dark Brandon memes, just to make everybody's Photoshop job that much easier. And that's incredible. And by the way, and thank you guys for the super chats and for the support. We obviously are on the radio, but if you want to support us the rest of the week, I'm live streaming at twitch.tv/HalSparks, or on my Facebook page if you're on Facebook, or on Twitter. You can even watch it there, which I would prefer if you went to one of the other ones and could help out. And then, of course, on YouTube at infotainmentwars.com. What's the difference between Infotainment Wars and InfoWars? A lot. Namely, I'm not a bloated psychopath.
Supplements.
Yes, 100% fewer supplements, right? Fewer lead in your pencil pills, and also no claims that people who have gone through true suffering are crisis actors. People are filming from the rooftops of buildings in Kupiansk right now. They are, as they move in, they've got all these, they're towing tanks again. We're back to the beginning, where after the fall of Kiev, the Kiev battle.
Yeah.
Oh, and the Ukrainian Air Force is landing in the reclaimed territory. That's amazing. Volunteer ambulances are coming in to treat people who've been without medical supplies and support for months as the Russians have held it. And for those of you that don't follow Julia Davis News, she's on Twitter. She translates the Russian
I think I
channel
should
1
follow
TV.
her. Oh, thank you, Carol or Carrie Raup or Super Chat right under the wire.
Oh, thanks. And by the way, for the record, the guy Solovyev, who's on camera right now, that guy, he you can't really tell in this clip or whatever, but his face is all beat up. He got into a fight with somebody, or somebody from the Kremlin beat him up, or he got into a fight with somebody who wasn't willing or able to give propaganda, or he's just clumsy. Maybe he learned how to walk from the generals that are in charge of this war. I don't know. But his face is messed up all of a sudden. And the former head of RT is the woman who hosts it sometimes is hosting the show, and he's just doing his radio show right now while his face heals. But they are failing miserably. She's asking, what is going on in Balika? He goes, good day, Olga. This is one of their fights. Honestly, I had no idea that we're almost out of time. That Balatikia was the capital of Russia. Oh, that Kupiansk has turned into Russia's capital. He's being ironic.
Oh wow!
I don't know why they're celebrating taking these cities. It's not like they took Moscow. They're acting like they took Moscow. Is basically what. It's pitiful. I'm excited. It's just good news. Anyways, I got to go prep for a show. So thanks very much, Johnny Million. Thank you, Chicago. We'll see you guys next week. Love you guys.
Don't forget dead tonight, Hal.
Thanks. It's going to be good stuff. I got my guitar here with me. It's going to be a party. All right. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. We'll see you next time.